My name is Ash, and I'm an environment artist in North Carolina, USA.
And my name is Jasmine, and I'm an environment artist from Cologne, Germany. So today's special guest is Luiza Diniz, and she works at Akira Studio Game Studios. I'm sorry so much. I practiced this before, and of course it goes
wrong. Don't worry, everybody says it wrong. It's our internal joke already.
Yeah, I'm in it now.
Yay!
So she's been involved at the studio there, and we're super excited to have her here today. Thank you for joining us, Luiza.
Thank you for inviting me.
So we're so excited to have you, and just to start off super casual, we wanted to ask you how you actually got into 3D and what led you basically into your current job right now. What was the initial moment where you're like, okay, I want to do this now as my actual job, this is my calling, I'm going for it?
Well, I actually went to university for game design, and it was a 3-year course, and we had to learn everything about it, like game design, programming, level design, everything. But I was really fell in love with 3D, especially character 3D art. But around the sometime around the course, a friend of mine actually introduced me to ZBrush, and I've been hooked ever since. And I graduated sort of like 2 years ago, I guess, and I started doing some freelance job and working on my portfolio because I wanted to have something ready to start working at a studio, because I don't really love freelance work. I actually wanted to work in a huge group, in a studio. So I started looking for a studio position, and I started like sending messages to everybody I knew in Brazil that had a studio, like, are you looking for a 3D artist in games? And a friend of mine in Akiris, who is today my lead game designer, he said, yeah, we are looking for a 3D artist for a new project. And he showed me my portfolio in there, and people really liked it, so I got the job, and now I'm working at Wonderbox. And I started working there not even as a character artist, actually. Okay. Yeah, it was like my first job, so I was pretty junior back then, and it was really in the beginning of the project, like, so we were still starting to like figure out some of the art style, so we didn't even have character work for me to do yet. So I started doing props and very simple things at first. So, and now here I am.
Awesome. And did you enjoy doing a bit of prop work at the start as first? Was this like out of your comfort zone a bit, or did you think it's actually nice to do something different for a while, not jump into characters straight away?
No, yeah, it was fine. Actually, it took a little bit out of the weight of it for me, because I started doing very simple things.
Yeah.
And now it took a little while to get into the studio vibe,
yeah.
Like knowing everything, learning how they were doing, learning how to deal with a new engine, because I was used to working with Unity, and we work with Unreal. So it was nice that they gave me smaller stuff at first. So I was able to learn a little bit more, especially because Wonderbox is a game. It's mostly aimed to be played in mobile games, like it's for Apple Arcade. So you can play it even on your TV if you have Apple TV, but we know that most people will be playing on iPhones. So we have like restrictions, technical restrictions, like the game has to run in a mobile. So the modeling has to be very low poly. So it was interesting for me to get this at first, because I learned a lot about some fundamentals in like very low poly modeling that some of the stuff I didn't pick up at university. So a lot of stuff I never really saw online. It was the kind of stuff that you only start learning because you are at a studio. You have people with more experience in teaching you this stuff. So it was very interesting.
And what's also interesting to me, you mentioned that you took some time after university to build your portfolio and get it ready for a job. How was that experience for you? Did you feel stressed by doing that, or did you set up like a plan for yourself until when you want to achieve that many portfolio pieces to feel ready mentally and also like skill wise? How was that for you? Because I'm almost graduating too, and it's a bit daunting to think about like what's afterwards. But so I'm always super keen to hear how other people dealt with that.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was a little bit easy for me because my parents have a very stable financial situation. So I hadn't had pressure from them to be like, you need to get a job now and move out now. So I was able to calmly, like as you said, make a plan and do like, okay, I need to fill this and this and these gaps that I feel like is missing from my skills, and I knew what I needed to study. I knew what I had to do. So I actually made a plan and said like, okay, in, I don't know, 6 months, I have to have a portfolio and some experience. Like freelancing actually helped, like to not have like, I could say like I had some job experience, not to go into a studio and say like I never worked before. So yeah, I actually did make a plan. But yeah, it's still stressful a little bit. It's weird to get out of college and not know what the future holds. So good luck.
Yeah, I think something that's kind of being talked more and more about, I think, in social media circles is that a lot of what has to do with, you know, like quote unquote success is just how much support you have. And you mentioning that you had a really good support group with your parents, like that they weren't pressuring you to do something one way or the other immediately, really helps, because, you know, when you're under pressure, you can often, I think, make poor decisions in the short term, thinking it's for the long term, like working a lot of like harmful hours or whatever. But sometimes if you have a support group and like your parents or like your partner, or if you like live with like friends or whatever who can kind of be like, yeah, like we can help take care of like this, that, and the other, so you can focus on whatever you need to do, it really does make a difference. And it's kind of important to like, you know, like admit, I don't want to use the word admit because it sounds like a bad thing, but just like say that happens, because people don't succeed by themselves. It's often a community effort to get someone to where they want to be.
Yeah, I totally agree, because we can't lie. We can't pretend like it's my reality is the same as most people. Like most people do need to get a job even while they are studying, or they can't even go to a university. So I can't just say like, oh, I just had to work hard, because it's not really that. It was easier for me. But I agree with you. I think people should try to find support whenever they can. If it's not in their family, like maybe finding people that want to work on the same thing as you do, or already working on the same stuff. Like I think this is the thing that I liked more about university, is that I was able to actually meet a lot of people that follow the same path. And are still my friends today. Like you actually know one of them, Jasmine Pedro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's I have like this group, it's a Discord server with a lot of people that study together, and we help each other a lot, like um motivationally, and like sharing knowledge and sharing job positions. Like whenever we know, like, hey, we have an opening in this studio, we can't like show your portfolio to them, like help you. So and I was able to meet these people because of university. So I'm very glad that I went, and I think people should uh, try to find this wherever they can.
Yeah, like even I think broadening it also, like when you think about the art process, it's not, you know, going to be as effective if it's just you know, like sitting at your computer working by yourself, critiquing yourself or whatever. Like you can do
Oh
that,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
but it's so much nicer to be able to have like those couple, you know, friends or like a mentor to go to be like, hey, can you look at this and get, you know, some new eyes, some new perspective on it. Like that also is, you know, like a community sort of aspect to what we do. Like I don't think, you know, a lot of projects that get off the ground if it was just one person, you know, like trying to make things happen. Like you really do need a team and a support network in that way.
Yes.
I think it helps also later with the mindset when you work in a studio, because it's going to be similar there too, that you're constantly getting feedback from your teammates and that you're working in a group, and having that already a bit in your personal projects maybe gets you in that right groove of that, and that you don't get suddenly shocked that you're in the studio and everyone's critiquing your work and saying you need to change things or fix things, because I guess that's maybe difficult for some people to have that realization that they're working somewhere and it's not like that anymore, that you're just working on your own project by yourself
Yeah.
with no input from outside basically.
Mm-hmm.
But I think nowadays with us being all online and being on Twitter and sharing our work on there, and in online communities like Discord, you get used to it quicker, which is a nice practice in itself too, I think, for later.
Yes, I think making games is in fact, this is what I like most about working for games, is that you are never really working alone. You have to do work for something that is bigger than just what you are doing. Like, I'm not being paid to just sit down and make 3D art. I'm getting paid to make a good game. Like, if I make an amazing model and it doesn't work in game, I didn't make an amazing model.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, you have to learn how to not take things too personally, how to listen to critique, and know that it's good for you. It's good for you to listen to others and grow and learn.
Yeah.
And also, like, expressing your ideas. Actually,
Yeah.
like, if you feel like you're doing something that should be heard, you should say it. Like, it's not always gonna work out. Like, people, it's not up to you. Sometimes people will not take your idea, but it's important to speak your mind too.
For sure. I think kind of going to like the communication sort of like note and talking about your work, I think that is a underrated skill perhaps. I think that kind of lives in like the soft skills sort of like camp, the communication part, and so it's so easy to kind of just like exist in like, oh, I need to get better at, you know, like this skill, this artistic skill or whatever. And I was actually talking to someone about this the other day who's still in university, and they're trying to write a paper, and we were all in voice chat, and they were like, yeah, I don't really know how this is going to help me, you know, be a better game developer. And I mentioned about how something that's helped me be a better communicator and just get better at talking about my own work is by writing blogs about them on ArtStation, because it kind of makes you think about, you know, like why you're doing what you're doing. And I think that even though like in university, you're going to have to write papers that are boring, you know, very, very boring, or you may not like the subject matter on it. I think like if you can take away like the core sort of like key message with it, it's just basically trying to get you to be a better communicator and get better at writing out your thoughts about a thing. And I think something like that will benefit you for sure, like long term, because it's always like this collaborative effort, you know, like you always have to communicate with someone about whatever, and being able to communicate clearly will, you know, save you from a lot of pitfalls like later down the road. And then also on top of that, like you were saying, just like kind of speaking confidently about it, and you know, like kind of believing in your stance, whether or not it's, you know, like something that will get used or not, or whatever happens with it, kind of just like expressing yourself, I think helps a lot as well, for sure.
Yeah, like I had I think I was really lucky because, as I mentioned earlier, I started working on Wonderbox right at a very early stage of the project. So it was a small team back then, and we were starting to build this new IP and build a new art style. And even though I was very much very new, and I was a junior, people actually would listen to me and actually ask me what I was thinking, if I had any ideas. It was always a very collaborative project. Like even like for like programmers to give input in art, and we could give input in game features, everything. So it was really fun times. Like I managed to learn a lot about what is like building this new universe from scratch. and and I needed to be like that. I needed to communicate very well. I needed to listen, and I needed to say my mind. And I really feel like I was heard in a lot of stuff like there that are in the game, were things that I helped create. So if people they are looking to start working in game development, have the chance to be in something like that, like enter a project right at the beginning, I think it's a very nice experience that will give a lot of knowledge. And yeah, it's really cool to see something take life, you know. Like at a point there was like uh, that realization that, wow, this is actually a game, this is working, and I get to play something I made. So it's a very nice feeling to have.
Kind of moving on to a little bit of what you're talking about just now. This is your first sort of like big job, and
Yes.
I was curious about any of the challenges you kind of like faced when you first started, like because like you said, you had done a little bit of freelance work before, but working in a more collaborative setting brings its own sort of challenges and maybe its own sort of unique pressures for you. And I kind of wanted to know about your experience working, you know, in the first couple months of your first job.
Well, it's part of what I said, like actually getting into the mindset of working with a bunch of people that are doing different things at the same time. Like you have to know very well who do you have to look for when you have a problem. Who do you like I needed to talk to game programmers and animators at the same time, and I needed always to be like receiving feedback from a bunch of people at the same time, and knowing like what could I do to help and what I shouldn't do. Like sometimes I had to step back and like listen to people who were my leads, and like actually like do what they said instead of like trying hard to do something that I was trying to do. Like, okay, I think that will work, and my lead was like, no, I think that other thing will work. But sometimes I would just like try my thing and it wouldn't really work, and the lead was like, well, you had to listen to me sometimes. So this was something I had to get used to. And I think a lot of patience as well. Like sometimes we get too attached to what we are doing, and it's not always gonna go our way. Like there are a lot of factors that take place in making a game, and sometimes something is not gonna be as cool as the team wanted to be, or we're gonna have to do something quicker because we have a deadline. So managing expectations is something we have to do all the time, and learn to live with this. I think it's very important, and know that even if it's not perfect, it will be nice. Like people will like it. And I think we are often the people who criticize ourselves the most. Like we are always trying to make everything really perfect, and which is good because we are always striving to do better. But you can take it personally if it's not perfect. Like it will be good even though it's not 100% what you thought you would be.
You know, that's quite a hard pill for me to swallow. Like, it's so interesting that you it's so interesting that you used the phrase like managing expectations, because that's kind of been a mental sort of mantra for me this whole year. Especially after like stuff with the virus kind of like kicked up, right? Like it's like everyone's really stressed out. Everyone kind of feels a little bit bleak about the future. Manage your expectations so that you're not so hard on yourself working under this unique kind of stress. And it's been hard because, you know, like you want it to be, you know, perfect. Like I think to myself, I think I'm probably at maybe 75% productivity, like in terms of how much productivity I can have. Like if it's normally on a you know, normal year is 100%, this year it's like 75, and I can't hit 75 every day, and I can't make something that's like, you know, perfect at 100% every day either. And kind of giving yourself grace with things like that, and kind of like you were saying, like being okay with it not being perfect, but just making sure it's nice, and that it you know, like it works. And, you know, kind of thinking from like the personal project aspect, which is like what I'm knee deep in right now, like if it's at least nice, then it has the potential to be like better if you have time to like swing back around on something at some point. Like I don't like to plan things out to be like, oh, I'll come back to it later. But like in the case where it's like I really hate to let it go, if it's at least like good, if it meets that level of like good, then it's like okay to move on from it. And it's, I think that goes into what you're talking about managing those expectations. It's hard. It's really hard to do that right now.
Like 75%, I think you're doing great, honestly. For like this year, 75%, you're on a roll. Like really, don't worry, just go for it.
Yeah,
because it's hard. Everybody's tired.
Everyone is tired, my goodness. Like something else that I'm kind of curious about as someone who is hoping to kind of step her foot into, you know, like the employment pool sometime next year, I was wondering about, you know, like, did you feel like you had to work faster when you started working? Like, because everyone's kind of at a pace, right, that's set by someone else. Like, did you feel like it was hard to meet the pace that everyone else was working at? Or is it kind of like more chill? I don't really have like a good read on what it's like with things like that.
Oh, think I think it depends, rather on like where we are on the project. Like I had like some moments where I had to work really hard because we had to deliver stuff quickly, because usually the art part has to be ready a little before the programming part, because the programmers have to implement everything that we do, so we have to be a little bit ahead. So usually when programmers are like doing extra time to get the game done, we are chilling, like we already did what we had to do. So but mostly no, I think it was pretty okay. Like honestly, I um I think we plan things really well, and uh, it hasn't been super hard to keep up, really. Especially for characters. um, we it's just me and another artist um, doing characters right now, and we sometimes sometimes we have to work a little harder, but we usually stay pretty steady. Like we don't have uh, a lot of work, like a lot of uh, demand. I think that's the word. But I think it's okay. I think if you go to a studio that worries about planning, uh, you won't have a lot to worry about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
It's interesting. Like you said, like it's just you and someone else doing the character work. That's a lot of. To me, that would be a lot of pressure. Like if I was working somewhere else and they were like, "Yeah, so it's only you and one other environment artist," like I would shake at my desk. You know, but
That's
it's like, oh
interesting.
no, it's everyone's gonna see all of my stuff. It's gonna be a lot of like me.
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah, it's I don't know, I think it's fun. I think it's fun to have just us two working, because when we have a problem, it's easier, I think, than
Mm.
dealing with a bunch of
yeah.
people. Like we can just sit, me and him and our lead, and work through it. So and we work really well together. Like it was somebody else in the beginning of the project, but and he was more experienced than me, but he left to work on an animation studio. It was really good working with him also. But yeah, when you have good energy inside the team, everything it's easier. Like um, and we're still not a huge team. Like it's not triple A work, and I think we managed very well with what we got to get today.
It's really nice to have like a tightly knit team, because you get to have a lot more say maybe in some things, or ownership as well, than being like in a huge team of people working towards the same thing. So it's nice to see that you have this kind of experience on your first job. I think that's great to have, actually, because you get to learn probably a lot more as well, taking a lot of responsibility, which helps later down the road too as well. Because it's interesting, I had the exact same thing at my internship. I was the only environment artist on the team,
Oh
and
wow.
having that as your first job experience can sound very daunting, but when you like pushed into the cold water in that situation, you feel like you grow like 10 times faster almost, because you
Yes.
have to because there's nobody else doing the work. But
Yes.
but it's still like a nice confidence boost at the same time, that you are able to do this on such a small scale, and the result you have in your game right now is amazing. So it definitely is working super well.
Thank you. I'm glad. Yeah, it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge.
Yeah,
Like it's exciting,
yeah,
and people will be understanding. Like your leads will be understanding of the level you are in, what responsibilities you take. Obviously not every studio will be as forgiving. So yeah, so you gotta try to pick a place where you fitting well, like you can see that your energy, like it's the same as the other people. So but yeah, it's usually a good pressure, like it's a pressure that makes you grow.
Definitely.
Yeah. Geez, like a pressure that makes you grow. That still sounds really scary. I'm just gonna like full disclosure. I think for me, since there's like a lot of unknowns with situations like that, and then also kind of the pressure that you can easily put on yourself, like you've worked really hard to get to this point and you really want to do your best and things like that, and like I don't know, it seems kind of hard to keep your head on straight in situations like that. just hypothetically, right? Like for me, just hypothetically. But it's nice that you have like that kind of perspective about it, because it's a very, it's a more positive perspective, and I think it kind of helps you when you're going through maybe like a little bit more of a rough time. Like you can kind of remind yourself that like you still got this, and this is just making you like a stronger like person to work with and a stronger artist, and kind of like encouraging yourself in that way, I think is really good that you think about it that way, for sure.
Yeah, we can get into our own heads very often.
That's true.
And it's good to remind that as Jasmine said, you're gonna be okay, because you will have to be okay. Like you will find a way to do what you have to do, and there will be hard days and bad days, but the results are usually very, very rewarding. There will be very good experiences.
And sometimes, as you said before, the expectations we put on ourselves are 10 times higher usually than the expectations others might have from us. Especially when you go to a job, like I always have this thing in my head saying, okay, everyone expects this much from me, and they all think I have to be this fast and I need to be doing this, and everyone is perfect at everything and I need to be perfect too. So it's like you get into this mindset, and then when you're actually there, you see not everyone knows everything either. Everyone's just kind of doing things how they think it's gonna be fine to do. So I think it's always this this unknown that makes you scared. But once you're in there and see that everyone, it's like the saying in German, everyone cooks with water at the end of the day. It's like the same when you work somewhere.
Everybody makes mistakes. Like I once I once broke the game.
Nice.
Like we have to send stuff in the game, and I made a mistake, and I actually had to erase like 5 hours of everybody's work. And people were like, oh, okay, like we expected that somebody would do that eventually, like, and we can fix it, but let's not do it again ever. But it was like a very sad day, because I was like, oh my God, I broke everything for everyone, and like 5 hours gone and 5 more hours to get everything back.
No.
So but it happens.
Exactly.
Like,
it happens to anyone. You found a loophole, basically. It's like QA testing in a way.
Yeah.
Nice. So we're gonna take a little bit of a short break there, and we'll be right back.
experience working her first job. And kind of moving on from there, I was wondering what's like your main role in the production line, and is there anything that was like your favorite part working on it so far? Like any interesting insights, or what you noticed that is very different about how the studio approaches specific parts of the game?
Well, now I'm only doing character work, and my favorite part, I think it's the overall style. Like, I really love how everything looks. It's just the kind of thing that I like to do. Everything is it's very simple. Like, we have this world that is made by blocks, but it's not like Minecraft. We don't have like sharp corners. We have everything's kind of rounded. So just like the environment that is made out of blocks, our characters are also thought to be like very basic shapes. So it was really interesting translating the concepts into 3D. We had to work a lot, like with silhouette and clean shapes and readability. So it took us a while to get to the right spot. Like, we stayed a couple months, like doing like a base character to be what we would use for all the other characters. Because if you look at our characters, they are all like, even though they are very different from each other, they all fit. Like, it's like Legos. We use Legos a lot as inspiration for the game. So we have like the characters have like head, torso, and legs, and you can swap. The player can swap heads and torsos, so you can have your own character as you wish it would be. And so all the characters have to fit, just like the Lego parts. And so it was really fun making this process, like having everything be believable to be in the same universe, and also making it very simple. Like, we have very simple textures as well, but they are refined, as in like we work a lot in the roughness detail in our textures. Like, we don't have small details on our high polys sculptures, like on our low polys or the high polys, because we don't want noise in our characters. Like, we don't want everything to look dirty or with too much details. We want players to be able to, at a distance, see like color spots, like orange hair, blue shirt, black pants. But when you look at the characters from up close, they have very detailed materials, and they have like cloth patterns and all this work done in texturing. So that was also really fun to develop. And like, as I said, the characters look very different amongst themselves. Like, we always had that diversity intent with our characters. We want the player to be able to be whoever they like. So we will have like girls, boys, all different ethnicities. We have animals, like one of our characters in like our poster image is a frog, and which I made the 3D model for, and it's one of my favorite characters. It was so much fun to make him, and I know a lot of people also liked him a lot, so I'm happy.
Me included.
Yeah, he's so fun to look at.
Yes, it really is. Everyone should check it out if you didn't see the game yet. It's on Instagram and on Twitter, I think. It's at least two places I've seen all the clips, and it's so pretty. Like the art style, I've not seen it in this way translated into a game of this type, especially when you said that it's with the blocks, it's similar to Minecraft, but the art style is just so polished and pretty, and it doesn't feel like it's on a grid necessarily. It's very organic in that sense, and that's what you don't see that much with games of this type of level building genre, which I find amazing. And what I find great that you said that you had diversity in mind from the start when creating characters, because what I noticed with a lot of character creation in games, that the diversity or like having different ethnicities always feels like an afterthought almost when you make the character and you change specific parts of it. It just doesn't feel like they actually sat down and made for each ethnicity a separate model or a different, like with design intent in mind. It's just kind of just done it because they maybe thought after creating the whole model that they needed to include this maybe, but having this in the whole development process from the start makes a big difference, and I think you can see that in the characters of your game as well so far, what I have seen, and it really pays off, I think.
Yeah. There was never really like a sit down where we said like, okay, are we giving characters like different ethnicities, or are we just doing like the Hollywood all white cast? There was never that. Like since the beginning, we just had that notion that we had to do all kinds of character. Like hopefully we get to show one day like the beginning of the concepting and the initial sketches, and people will be able to see that since the start we have like faces that are in the game today. Like we have characters that were very, very diverse, and because we've always like felt right to do this, and from like a like an ethical point of view, and but also because this is what the game is about. Like we want a lot of options for the player. We want the player to be able to choose what they want to be, and see what their friends chose. Like we have multiplayer, so you get to play with other people, and we also play like in the studio. We have every week we have a moment to test the game. Like everybody gets together and play, and it is so hard to see people using the same character. Like we have a lot of combinations, so it's fun to see what people will choose that week. So that's what we wanted since the beginning. But we also want to keep ourselves in check all the time. Like when we have all the characters and we get to look at them and like, okay, so we might need more characters with long hair, or okay, we don't have enough like Asian characters or something like that. Like we every time we make a new character, we think about that. Like we want to have balance in what we can offer to the player. So that's also one of our pillars of design.
I think it's kind of like fitting also for a game based, like out of Brazil makes sense.
Yeah, I guess
because like honestly, like Brazilians are so diverse. Like
yes.
so
Everybody
diverse.
could be a Brazilian.
Yeah,
like you two would
for
fit
sure.
just
We
fine.
just fit in just fine. And it's kind
Yeah.
of like the beauty of the history, also, and it's kind of nice that sort of approach was like, built in without there being so much like like fighting about it. Like I'm glad that you said it felt kind of like natural to do something like this. It just makes sense. And
yes.
Like I think lots of people are going to be able to feel that energy and be able to feel kind of more or less taken care of, because they know that they can find like an option that makes them feel like themselves. And I think it's very important to have things like that, because games are they're a way of escaping for like so many people, you know, and in order to sometimes fully project yourself into this world where you're just like having fun and fooling around, like it's nice to have someone who looks like you know. So
Yes.
it's really nice that like developers are thinking about it in that way, and that, you know, projects are, you know, getting off the ground that are doing things like that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. We are very excited to see what's gonna be like when we launch, to see the response from people and to see what they're gonna create and what they're gonna ask, because we obviously know that we have a lot to offer and people will make stuff we can't even imagine and like ask for stuff we can't even imagine the game could have, like, because that's a whole point of a world building game. Like you offer people tools and they make stuff out of nowhere. So it's gonna be really cool, especially for me because I never launched a game. So I can imagine what's gonna be like being I don't know, on a bus and the person sitting next to me is playing my game. Like I hope I get to live that and be like, oh my god, she's playing my game. It's gonna be fun.
I'm sure it will happen. I'm pretty sure of that. I will play it at least, and then call you on a
100%,
webcam
100%.
call and play it in front of
Please do.
Yes.
Yay. Yeah, like I'm really looking forward actually, like for environment artists to get a game, because I feel like an environment artist when I play
Yeah.
it. Like I already got a bunch of like concepts from people I try to recreate them inside the game, and it's totally doable.
Wow.
Like it's so fun. So I can't wait to see what people are gonna do.
That's so exciting.
For sure. Kind of moving on to the next topic, I kind of wanted to ask you about what it's been like working with all, you know, the craziness of COVID happening. And like, I was actually talking to, you know, I was actually talking to my therapist about this. And for me, and I guess this is kind of like a broader question about like working at the company and then also kind of working on any sort of personal projects or whatever. Like I found that back in March when we were doing more of like the more intense sort of lockdown stuff, I was so stressed out about everything that I avoided work. Like I avoided working on my stuff a lot for a couple weeks.
Yeah, me too.
And then now it's transitioned into kind of like this weird, oh my God, it's October. It felt like it was July 2 weeks ago, and kind of realizing that a whole lot of time has passed, and kind of maybe a little bit of a panicky sensation where it's like I have a lot of work to still get done. And then it's also easy to kind of sink into work right now because it's kind of the only like controlled sort of thing. Like, you know what to expect. Like your work isn't, you know, like, I mean, like your work is, it can get you sick, right? If you work too hard, but it's kind of feels like a safe place because you know kind of everything that could potentially happen with it. Like, you know what to model and you know how to solve these problems, and like how I think in the process I have gone a little bit far down the deep end a little bit, where I'm working too much because it feels so safe to just ignore everything else that's happening and just sinking a lot of time into it. And it's kind of like a dangerous situation to be in. And I was wondering, like, if you had any sort of experiences like that, or just how are you coping with, you know, balancing COVID stuff with getting your work done, with preserving yourself, with getting personal projects done. Like, how are you juggling all of that?
Yeah, honestly, I've been kind of the same as you. Like, I have been through ups and downs. Like, okay, I'm not gonna do anything, or I'm gonna do everything. And I totally agree, like work is something that's like keeping the routine. Like it's the one thing that I managed to keep the same as it was before. Like I have to clock in at 10 and I have to clock out at 7.
Yeah.
So it's the same. But what about the rest of the day? Like so many times I was in this situation that was like, okay, I did my work, so what now? What can I do? And um it's kind of crazy. I actually got back into therapy since it started. I used to do therapy, but since I moved states to work at Kitty's. I didn't found any therapist that I liked here, so I just stopped because and when I would go back to my home state, I would just check in with her, like that one session uh, to just tell everything that happened. But I actually got back to therapy with the same therapist. Like she's doing phone sessions now, and it helped a lot. So I recommend therapy for everybody, not just if you're feeling down. But yeah, I think it's I'm actually starting to get a little more used to it. I managed to find a new routine. Like I'm a routine person. I actually like to wake up every day in the same time and do the same stuff. Like it works for me. I know it's not for everybody, but it works for me. So I'm a little more uh, in check with like how much I work. So I don't do, as you said, anymore like overwork and be super tired. But I'm trying to do like a little bit of everything. Like I do some personal studies in the morning, then I get to work, and after work try to do some like physical exercise or something. I actually do pole dancing, like and I got a pole to use in my house. Like it's ridiculous. It's in the middle of my living room, and I have to like push the couch every time I use it. But like we have to work with what we got now. Um, so I'm trying to like keep myself in check to do everything as balanced as I can. And I live alone, so so I don't have anybody in like a risk group like that. No, it's dangerous to get COVID. So if I'm feeling really down or if I'm feeling really lonely, I get to see some friends that also live alone. So even though everybody is also staying at home since March, and uh, Brazil is also like the US. We are pretty much one of the worst countries in the pandemic. But yeah, I get to see somebody eventually, like just to take the edge of. Uh, but also like still not doing things as we used to. Like we have to use masks and we have to be in like an open space, and it's weird, but I think I'm getting used to it. Like it accepting that stuff has changed. I think it's the first step.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like it's the first step, and it's also like the hardest step, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of why I initially had a little bit of like frozen in fear kind of like feelings. Like I didn't really want to go anywhere. I didn't want to go to the grocery store or anything like that. And you know, having some sort of social interaction, even if it's little, has done a lot for me in the past, couple months, being able to hop into a voice chat with some friends and just hang out, or like hang out with them while I'm working on something and just listening to them talk sometimes, or listen to them, fool around and laugh with them. It's very healing, especially in a time where you feel kind of separated from, kind of everything. And it's easy and it's very, very easy to feel like you're alone in all of this. And I think, finding any ways to safely, connect with friends or family members or whatever, it really matters a lot right now, because I know it's helped me so much, even though I'm still like, ironing out certain wrinkles with, the problems that I'm having right now. It's nice to have, again, kind of like that community aspect, kind of coming back to that. Like it's important to have that community in some capacity, for sure.
Yeah, I think like finding support, as we said earlier, finding support where you can, and like always trying to be active with the people around you helps. And like doing things safely, because I see a lot of people just ignoring everything. Like people are just pretending it's not happening, and I honestly can't do that. Like I feel like trying to do something as we did before kind of feels empty now. Like I don't know, like going to eat in a restaurant, like I just can't feel comfortable doing it. Like and I think people who are like not accepting it at all, it might be taking a toll bigger on them than people that are like, okay, so this is what it is now, and I have to do my part, and I have to be patient, and I have to like take care of myself and the people around me as much as I can. But like there's nothing we can do about it except like trying to be safe.
For sure.
So
sure, managing those expectations again, like talking to some people, it's just like the conversation of like, when are things gonna get back to normal sort of come up, and I've already just kind of locked into the mindset that it will probably not, like, I joke about it, like if someone was like, oh man, I wish you could come visit in the UK, it's like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll see you in 2025, or something like that.
But like maybe it just might be.
It might be. Or even like at the earliest, I feel like kind of accepting now that like we might be in a similar sort of spot until everyone can like get a hold of it for another year or whatever, and kind of like thinking to myself, like accepting that now kind of makes me feel not as like maybe stressed, because there's like a little bit of like acceptance about it, where it's like, okay, so this is what it is, what can I do with what I have right now, like just like do the best you can with what you got, like always, and kind of just try to make it work in a healthy way, and giving yourself grace, like kind of along the way as you go through it, because we're all kind of like, we're all in the trenches together. Like if anything, this has made me feel very connected to all of my friends more so than before, because it's like we're experiencing a lot of similar things right now.
I actually got back to being in touch with a lot of people that I haven't been in touch with in a long time, like friends that I that live abroad. I started talking to them again because everybody's doing everything online. So I think reaching out to people it's really important right now.
Yeah, it's very reassuring to know you're not by yourself in this, because like when it started, the whole thing, at first I didn't even think it'd be that bad, because I'm pretty much at home all the time before that even, so it wasn't a big change, but it did take a toll on me over time to not even have that once a week, I don't know, a restaurant trip or going to the town a bit and that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't do it anymore, and I'm okay with it. Like, you get used to it, as you said. It's just a matter of accepting it soon enough and finding another way to keep yourself busy in a way, but also not too busy, because then you might get into the habit of overworking and thinking that just
Mm-hmm.
because you're at home right now, you need to be productive 100% of the time. And that's like something I've been doing for quite a while in the past months, and it
Just
didn't
at
end up
me
well
next
because
time.
that's it's that's pretty bad. But then it's also nice, is it? Because then you can still reach out to other people, because everyone's experiencing something similar in some way anyway. So now is the best time to open up and be like, okay, I don't have to deal with this by myself entirely, because people will understand it and will maybe help me in some way if I just talk about it.
For sure. So like kind of wrapping it up, if we can attempt to wrap this up. I am hearing kind of again, which is kind of nice, that there is always this sort of, like in the episodes that we've released so far, there's always been some sort of like a community aspect that comes in.
Yeah.
And getting support from those around you seems to be kind of like a key theme in everyone's, success stories. Like everyone had support in some way. And it kind of just goes to show that if you think you can do it by yourself, then you're kidding yourself, and you should find some help. I again, like, I know that I started getting a lot better at what I do when I started, being around other people and, getting encouraged from them. So that's kind of what I'm hearing, is just like find your group of people and your friends, and, let them support you, because sometimes it can be kind of hard to, admit that you need help with certain things when you really do. So that's kind of what I'm hearing a lot, which is great. Love that. That's so positive. It's so it feels good.
I
don't have to be alone.
I think it's really I think it's really hard for people to ask for help and like not feel small by doing it, like and I love asking for help. I love asking everything because it only helps us, like honestly, like there's a great book that I love by Amanda Palmer. I don't know if you guys know her, but for those who don't, she's basically a rock star and internet famous persona, and she's also the wife of Neil Gaiman. But she wrote this book. It's called The Art of Asking, and it's her autobiography, and she talks a lot about how she got her career by being helped by other people and helping other people. Like she would be very vocal online about her experiences, and when she would go perform in a city, she would be like, hey, I need like a place to stay in this city that I'm going, like can everyone like help me find it. Like she would like couch surf, like in exchange for tickets for her shows. She would invite fans to play at her shows. So it's a very impressive journey of how she became huge, and just by like opening up and being in touch with her fans and exchanging. And how is it like it's a hard process to be so open, like it can, like you're letting people hurt you if they want to, but you're trusting them not to. So I think it's really interesting. I really like this book, and it speaks a lot to artists, like how we can be very, very absorbed in our own doubts and not see how opening up can help us grow and help other people grow with us.
That's really interesting. Really applies to how you're working inside a team as well, and being open to asking questions. And I found that really interesting. We touched upon that earlier, that you have maybe these expectations on yourself, but you shouldn't be worried, because in the end, you have to get it done somehow, and people will help you along the way to get it done too. You're not by yourself in this. So being open from the get-go is really easy to get into that mindset quicker as well, I think.
Yes. Sometimes I think people feel like they are in a competition, like they have to be better than others, but it's not like that. Like, you will grow so much more when you're collaborating, because eventually everyone just wants the same thing.
Yeah.
Like in a project, like in a game, everybody working there just wants the game to get done and be cool.
Yeah.
And so you don't need to like show up one day with everything ready. Like, exactly. It's not how it works. No. So yeah.
I like not sorry, I'm like processing things. Like trying to get out of the mindset of, I know I said we were wrapping up. That's really funny. Guess we're not. Trying not to.
I'm not in a hurry. Like, I can talk about it for ages.
Oh, man, just kind of like thinking about, I think you said something about like competition and things like that, like not feeling like you have to beat everyone else. And it totally makes sense in a collaborative sense, for sure, because you are a team. But even sort of like in a not collaborative sense, I think like I absolutely have fallen into the trap of being jealous of other artists, kind of like in a bad way, like in a more toxic sort of way. Toxic to myself, not to other people, because we keep that inside all the time. But it was kind of like kind of thinking to myself about why I felt so like not necessarily competitive, but just so jealous of other people, which I guess, like, I don't know, for depending on the person, it can take sort of the competitive route. And I just found that I wasn't necessarily happy with what I was making. And I was wishing that I was making something like this person that I was jealous of, jealous of their skill or whatever. And I found that, like, if I made sure that whatever I was working on was something that I was excited about, then it was easier for me to not really worry about what other people are doing.
Yeah,
and it kind of let me appreciate what they were doing a lot more, because, like, I don't know, like that's their thing. Like, they like to do X, Y, and Z, and that's really cool. However, the thing that I'm working on is also really cool. And, it makes it changes it from a toxic sort of feeling and more into sort of like an appreciative sort of feeling, where, you can appreciate someone else's work, but still also appreciate your own. It's I don't know. It's kind of, it can be kind of hard to do that, because you're so, like, whether this sort of rhetoric is coming from college or whatever, or someone on the internet giving bad advice, but it can always feel like you're always told about how hard it is to sometimes find work and how competitive it actually is. And it kind of feels like you have to be, like neck and neck with everyone else and kind of like fighting other people for, any sort of like recognition, when it actually is more healthy to kind of like, just make sure that you're doing something that you're excited about and kind of focusing on your own growth, and just making sure that if this asset that I'm making is at this level, then trying to push it a little bit more the next time, without thinking about, like what someone else is doing on Twitter, like thinking about it that way has helped me a little bit.
I think in the end we all just can coexist. Like, it's not that just one person can get something and that means that the other person won't. There's not like a limited pool of success, right?
Exactly.
And I think that
I can't have it.
Exactly. And I think that's what we
she
get.
took the last spot on success.
Yeah.
Like, I can't get in anymore.
Yeah, I think that's what like kind of gets maybe supported through maybe social media, because you see, oh, X, Y, and Z gets that many likes and followers, so that means they're better than me, or I'm worse, or like vice versa, and it's just very unhealthy over time to think about that. Like, I've done that for a long time too, and it's just gotten to a point where you're not happy about what you're making, and you try to like think about, oh, what am I supposed to make that people will enjoy? And at the end, like, people telling you, oh, you need to make X, Y, and Z to get a job, like, don't do art in this style, or don't do environment art or character art because there's not enough jobs in it. Like, you hear this like so many times that it gets to a point where you get confused, like, what am I supposed to do then? There's so many limitations and things, but at the end of the day, like Ash said, if you just do what you're actually excited about and like you want to work on that, I'm sure people will see that in your work too, that it doesn't look like you're forcing yourself to meet somebody else's expectations. Like, it should be something that makes you content with the work you're doing and yourself, and that it doesn't feel like you're doing it for somebody else necessarily.
Speaking from experience, like this one, and here I'm pointing at Jasmine, like she, that Unreal scene you made, like it triggered everybody I know. Like, it's so good, it's so insane that people are like, I can't. She did it. Like, she did it. It's so good. Nothing I will ever make will be that good. And don't take it like the wrong way, but it's what we're talking about. Like, it's amazing work, and it's online, and everybody sees it, and everybody wants to be that good. But everybody has their journey. Like, you have your journey, and it's like. It's natural for us to compare with ourselves with others. Like, we live in a system that it's always telling us we have to get better. So, but not everybody at the same time and doing the same things. Like, everybody has their own pace, and as you guys said, like, as long as you're doing what you think it's good for you, and what you think will help you grow, like, you don't need to look at other people with jealousy. Like, you need to look at other people as like people who can help you grow. So, but I think it's something we have to actively work through. Like, it's a struggle for sure.
Yeah, it's something I have to learn. Like, I think it's a skill you have to learn, and it's a continuous learning process. Like, it's not something you can just be like, okay, from now on, I'm never going to compare myself to anyone ever again. That's it. Like, that's not gonna work.
We have like low points. Like, for some reason, you're feeling a little insecure, and you see something, and it makes you even more insecure. Like, you're starting to compare. It goes up and down. Like, it's you can't be 100% like secure with yourself all the time.
For sure not.
Because what
you can let it stop you.
Exactly. Because like, just putting that out there, what you just described about my work, it sounds like you're talking about somebody else almost to me. Like, I'm not associating myself with these things, so it's always very alien, and almost like, I didn't do this, I didn't make this, I'm not this, and it's like, it's very hard to grasp. And I think we touched upon that in other episodes as well. It comes back to imposter syndrome, your own expectations versus other people's expectations, and it gets like into this whole mess where everything comes together, and it's getting hard to like pull these things apart and actually naming them by what the issue is you're having with your own work or how you think about it. So, but it's still good to hear that other people enjoy your work anyway, and that's one positive side of social media, having these support groups of friends that tell you, okay, no, you're on the right track, you're doing well, don't worry about it. It helps to fight against that mentality as well.
Don't feel like like that. Like, everybody here is great. You and Ash have great work, and I'm really happy to be able to be talking to you guys because I admire you.
Oh, it's very mutual.
Yeah, for sure.
No, it's true.
It's kind of great to have, you know, like doing this podcast is very like kind of like a two-way street where I definitely you know, have like, I feel like we definitely have like a mission with it, but then also for me personally, it's also about like getting to know people that I wouldn't have gotten to know otherwise, and just kind of like hearing their perspectives and kind of like taking whatever lessons that they bring me, because, you know, like, it's like even though we're, you know, like hosting this podcast is not about us. Like, it's not like, oh man, it's time to get on a podium and talk about our lives or anything like that. It's very much so like listening to people like you, you know, share their experience and kind of like finding like the positive sort of takeaways in it. And so, yeah, like obviously we are very happy and honored to have you be a participant on the podcast. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Super awesome to have you on.
Thank you, guys.
It
was really fun. I never done a podcast before, so
yeah, you're natural.
Yes,
I'm
no longer a virgin.
Yeah, so kind of like to wrap up for real this time, you can find Luiza on Twitter and ArtStation. We'll be including the links to her social medias in the description box below on whatever you're listening to us on, and also we'll include, you know, some links to your game as well, so that people can follow the Twitter account and kind of keep an eye on it for when it finally, you know, like comes out and drops, and we can all have fun together. So yeah,
we have a lot to show yet.
We're looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on again. It was an absolute honor. And to anyone listening, if you would like to suggest someone to join us on an episode of this podcast, someone who's a great positive force within their community, along with being great at what they do, please send us an email at allinclusivepdsct@gmail.com. That's all inclusive, no spaces, pdcst@gmail.com. There can be a 2D artist, 3D artist, community manager, someone who's in QA. We just want to have anyone on here. Please send us our suggestions. We can't wait.
For sure. Like Jasmine said, you know, like anyone is really okay. So as long as you think they're cool and they have a cool story to tell and have like a positive sort of aspect to bring and share with everyone, please send us those suggestions. And I would like to thank you for joining us again for another episode of All Inclusive. Thank you for listening up until this point. It's been kind of, you know, like a really fun side project for Jasmine and I, and I think it's going pretty well so far. And we hope that you have as much fun listening to us talk as we do talking. And you can kind of find us on a couple different social media channels, and you can find these links in the description box below or the main page of whatever you're listening to us on. And we are on Twitter, YouTube, and Spotify right now. Thanks again, and we hope you'll join us for another episode of All Inclusive.